You're listening to The New Paris. I'm your host, Lindsay Tremuta. Die-hard fans of Paris already know that there's never been a shortage of activities to fill one's intellectual and cultural cup. There's art openings, talks and conferences, concerts and performances every day of the week. But if you're interested in learning in a classroom setting without going back to school in the traditional sense, the options kind of dry up. Where do you go besides YouTube or any other screen-based platform to learn about geopolitics or literature or filmmaking for a couple of hours after work? That's where Off Campus steps in. It's a 2-month-old coffee shop and bookstore outside Metro Oberkampf that has a special room dedicated to classes for adults. Most of them are in French, but English options are sprinkled into the schedule. I've long searched for a place like this, and having tried a class and loved it on Jane Austen, I'm really game to sign up for more. Today, I'm really happy to be joined by the co-founder of Off Campus, Siham Jibril, to talk about what sparked the idea, why there's more interest in continuing education, and which themes resonate most with her Parisian clients. Siham, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, I'm here, actually, you're having me in many ways because I'm sitting in your space.
Yeah, you are.
At Off Campus,
yes,
which is like a month and a half old.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
What is this? How did I don't even know where to begin because for context for listeners, I've seen this space under construction for 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And thought to myself, well, what is this going to be?
Mm-hmm.
It was a bank before, big space. Is it going to be another coffee shop? Is it going to be something more than that? Is it a restaurant? It was sort of unclear. And then I saw Off Campus and I thought, that's interesting. What you're doing here is something that Paris does not know. It is completely new.
It is.
Coffee shop, bookstore, and space for classes, evening adult classes.
Exactly.
There are no exams.
No exam. You just come for, the joy of learning something new. And that was.
So how did you get here? What were you doing before this? Why was now the time to do this? And also, I'm so curious if the banks, if you needed a loan, if the banks were like, you want to do what?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for having me, Lindsay. As I was saying, I'm very honored and quite impressed to be on your show, to be honest, because I know that you know all the nice spaces in Paris. So when you came and you were full of compliments about our space, I was super, super honored and happy. So thank you so much for having me.
So well deserved.
And so what was I doing before? So the funny thing is, I used to have a podcast, and I've been invited on other shows, but I often said no because I'm not so at ease. I don't know why, but speaking about myself, and I prefer to listen to others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't expect it to be a bit stressed, but the thing is, I am. A little bit.
Everyone is so nice. All the listeners are nice.
But it's funny because now I know how my guest felt when I started like the record button. For me, it was super easy. I was not stressed at all. I was like, no, but it's okay. We're just gonna talk about you, and I'm gonna ask you a question. It's super chill. But of course, there was stress. But now I realize it. It's funny. So I used to have a podcast called Generation XX. I started the podcast in 2017. So it was the early days of podcasting, at least in France, because in the US, there were already many independent podcasts, but in France, it was really the beginning. So I had the idea in 2016. Actually, I was listening to American podcasts, and I thought, oh, that was really cool. And at that time, I was thinking about starting my own business, and I was talking with a potential business partner, but I quite didn't know her. So I was like, I don't know, should I do something with her or not? And by listening to podcasts, I learned that I shouldn't partner with her because we didn't have the same values and stuff. And it's by listening to the experience of other people that I realized that. And so I thought, okay, I'm not going to launch this business, but I'm going to launch a podcast because I've learned so much thanks to other podcasts, and podcasts didn't really existed in France. So I was like, okay, let's do it in French. And
you were an early adopter.
Yeah, I was totally. Yeah. And so I started this podcast, and I was interviewing entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, about their journey. about the ups and downs. And at that time, when we talked about entrepreneurship, it was very much about, startups and stuff. And as for me, the thing I was interested about was not really about creating a company or it was more about the energy of starting a project, whatever the project is that I was interested in. Like, how do you have, the idea, and how do you have the energy, and what are the ups and downs, and da da da. So I did that for 4 years. I did 100 episodes.
It's huge, I know.
It is.
It's a lot.
Yes. It was super interesting. I met a lot of interesting people, and I really enjoyed it. I guess COVID was like a specific moment for many of us, and it was for me because I didn't want to record episodes remotely. So that was the time when I thought, okay, what am I going to do next? I think at that time I was at episode 80. So I was like, okay, soon it's going to be episode, like the 100th episode. What am I going to do after? I was about to turn 30. So I don't know. I had like kind of a where am I going next moment, right? Kind of. And also when COVID was over, I was really, longing for physical and like real life connection
sure.
and stuff. And so that was the moment, like, I think 2021, when I started, thinking about what I was going to do next. And so I stopped the podcast at the 100th episodes on February 2021.
Wow.
That was the last episode. And a few months later, I was talking with one of my friends, Alice, and she was also at a crossroad in her professional life, and she was also thinking about what she was going to do next. And by talking, we were like, yeah, we want so physical and real life connection. And it was also a time after COVID where, we were always on our phones, and that was the time when we were starting talking about polarization of opinions, and because everyone was looking for news on their Instagram and stuff. And so, and with Alice, we were like, that's a bit weird. I mean, there are so many topics on which people are very, like pro this or against this, and we were starting to feel that something was shifting, I guess, after COVID. And so we were like, there are so many topics on which we don't know many things, and we would just need to go back to school and to learn more about, history and some stuff to be able to have an opinion, because otherwise it's just us, screaming on Instagram, I think about this, but we don't know anything about it, right?
You're so right. Yeah.
And of course, there are many great articles and podcasts and documentaries, but as for me, I was the queen of opening like a long read article, but I would never read it.
Right.
Because, I was disturbed by, I don't know, my phone and
literally anything.
Yeah.
You could be disturbed by anything.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's by, starting to talk about this that we were like, yeah, we should, take the time to really go deeper in some topics and stuff. But at the same time, we were like, but there is no way we're really going back to school, because it's not because you want to have information about geopolitics that you're going to start a master on geopolitics.
No.
We're adults. We don't have the time to do that.
But what did you study journalism? Did you study communication? Sort of what even led you to doing this podcast in the first place?
I studied business, actually, but I wanted to work in the cultural industry.
Okay, so there is a
yes,
link that gets you here.
Definitely, yeah. So I was really interested in the media industry. I did one internship in movies.
Oh, interesting.
Like in a movie company. So yeah, I was always interested in the media and in the way information is shared, in the way stories are shaped. That's really something I'm interested about. So by having this conversation with Alice, we started kind of to have this idea, and then I was like, yeah, and of course, there are all these serious topics that we want to learn more about, but I would also love to go to like a literature class or like I don't know, a history, art class or whatever, because there are so many interesting topics that I want to, take the time to dig. And that's how we came up with the idea of, okay, it would be great if we could have a space where we could, attend this kind of class. But as adults, like if after your day of work, you want to go to a class, it needs to be in a nice space with comfortable seating.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if there was also a coffee shop? Oh, and a bookstore and da-da-da-da-da.
Okay.
That's how the idea came up.
Because it feels like the trifecta for people like me who's always been very bookish and who loves being around. I mean, the design is also very important because it could have been very different, maybe more industrial, less warm, but you come in and there's a warmth. And I think that's also what people respond to. But it's true. We are sitting on seats that could be like, in a millionaire's home cinema, I'm just imagining,
that's
someone
true. You're
someone
right.
has their own home cinema.
Yes.
What would you choose?
Yes.
Okay, so they don't lounge, but they're almost there. These very comfortable armchairs with these really nice desks.
Yes.
It's soundproof for the most part, right? And the soft wood you chose, the fans. I mean, the whole thing was just so smart.
Thank you so much.
Who would have thought, because those of us who like to keep learning, we go to author talks or we see presentations. Obviously Paris is so rich.
Of course, there are so
with
many
events
great
and
things.
cultural events, but they're not necessarily shaped like a class.
Yep.
And having now done my first class here, which we will talk about, but it really was a mix between going back to school and attending some brilliant talk led by an expert in their field, and so it's sort of in the middle. It didn't feel overly scholarly in a way that felt inaccessible, and nor does it feel intimidating, because I'm sure you wanted to avoid that, like,
definitely.
Ooh, going back to school.
Yeah. And that's why we don't use, in the way we talk about off campus, we don't use the word school, because of course, for people who loved school, if you say to them, it's like going back to school, they would be like, yeah, great, I love it. But there are so many people for whom school was a nightmare and they didn't like it. And they always, sat at the back of the class and they wouldn't ask any questions. And we really wanted to also attract those people by saying to them, this is not school, this is not about exam, this is not about being knowledgeable. This is just about having a good time. Because, at least for me, I feel like learning is such like a great experience, a great feeling.
It is.
It's like it opens something within you. It's like, wow, there are so many things that you can learn. There are so many interesting things you can be, digging. And there are so many interesting people. And, the teachers and stuff, they like the class you attended, it was with Frédéric, it was taught by Frédéric Auger, who is a teacher of literature, English literature and art history. And when we met him, he also told us, and I do also classes about the gardens, English gardens. And I was like, what? We're not going to do a class about English gardens.
You absolutely should do a class about English
gardens. But the thing is, the more he talked about it, the more I was like, we absolutely need to do a class on English gardens. Of course.
It's because you're reacting to him. But how did you meet him? Because he was phenomenal. And just to give some listeners a bit of context, this was the first English language course, because almost all of the courses are in French, but you're testing out the waters with an English language class. And it felt like I was maybe one of only a handful of native English speakers. The rest were French, actually, which I thought was so interesting. How did you find him? He was brilliant. And also his English was so phenomenal. The whole time I was like, this guy, he has such a French name, but surely he must have English family or something.
And he doesn't.
And he doesn't. And he joked that his accent is like very transatlantic. So it's not British, it's not American. It's like in between, totally impressive. But how did you meet him?
So we do a lot of digging. For me, I feel like, when I go on the internet, I just dig and dig and dig. And I go from link to link and article from article. And I think I found him I was looking for a teacher that could talk about English literature. And I think I was actually looking for a teacher that could talk about Jane Austen. I wanted to do
specifically.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, by researching, I found him, and then I met him. We had coffee. And just by meeting him, I was like, of course, I want to do classes with him because he's so passionate and he's so kind also.
Oh, he was so nice.
Yes.
And very humorous.
Yes.
Like very funny without trying to be comic. He was so personable.
Yeah.
Are these professors that you've aligned for your programming, have they been on board from way before you opened? Like, what was the timeline of getting them to do this with you?
Yeah, because so earlier I was telling you how we got the idea with my business partner and friend Alice. But the thing is, before opening the space, we were like, okay, we need to test the concept and to test the idea and to know if people would, be on board and register to come to a class and pay for the class, and if teachers would be okay to teach classes and stuff. So we were like, okay, before opening our own space, we need to just organize evening classes in another space and see what happens. And so I knew the founder of Bonjour Jacob.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes, which is a coffee shop that is near République. And with Alice, we just pitched him the idea, and we were like, would you be okay if we could just come some evenings and organize the classes? And he really loves entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. And so it was game from the beginning. It was like, okay, for sure. I mean, our space closes at 7. So after 7, I give you the keys and you can test.
Wow.
And so that was so kind of him. And we really thanked him a lot, because that's how we started. And that's how we could really test the concept. And so we were like, okay, great. Now we need to find teachers. And so again, we looked on the internet to find some people. And also by talking about the concept to some friends told us, oh, I know this guy. He organized geopolitics classes in his home. You should meet him. And that's how I think we started with maybe like 8 or 10 teachers that were on board. And they were on board from the beginning because they really liked the idea. And they were really interested in teaching classes to adults,
Yeah, because it must be such a different experience for them.
Super different. Because they tell us, okay, there are teachers at university or like prep school or even high school. And they tell us, of course, we have some, I mean, it's a great experience, but to know that to have people who registered to the class and are happy to be here, it's not the kind of students that we have on an everyday basis,
That's for sure, yeah.
So they were super happy about it. They were also super happy to have, like a free space, or at least a space where they can, not just follow a rigorous program, but they could also, be a little bit free about how they teach the class. And also with Alice, we really wanted classes that are not top down, but where people can ask questions and when you can have a conversation.
Which is not comfortable for a lot of French students because they're told to keep their mouths shut, right?
Totally.
School. Whereas at many points, I wanted to interject, but I thought, I don't want to be that person. I'll wait until the end. But he did let everybody know you can jump in at any point. Yes. But I could sense looking around that there were people who were not so sure about
You're totally right. It really depends on the topics, So yesterday night we had a class, like a psychology class, about attachment and the theory of attachment. People had so many questions.
Oh, well, but this is very on trend.
And it's kind of a personal topic, So you feel maybe more at ease asking questions. Maybe more questions come to your head. I don't know. But it really depends on the classes totally. So so the teachers were on board and we just organized I think 100 classes maybe.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, but at the beginning we thought, we're just going to do this for 3 months and then we're going to look for a space and we're going to find it. We did it for, I think, almost 2 years.
You're kidding.
No, I swear. We organized the first class at Bonjour Jacob on February 13, 2023.
Wow.
You see? And now we are 2025.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Because then, it was super hard to find the space. It was hard to,
and then there's the financing.
The financing, it was hard. Yeah.
So was that your full-time job at the time?
It was like I would do a bit of freelancing on the side to have some money to live. So it was hard to balance the two. But it was worth it because now we have our own space and that was great. And the thing about testing is for us, it was like the money we made. So part of the money is to pay the teachers, of course. And the rest we could re-inject in the company. And so for us, it was really great to test we didn't take much risk actually. We were just testing some classes. It was really okay. And then seeing that people were really happy about the concept and they loved it actually. And many people told us, I was looking for something like this but couldn't find it.
Or didn't even know where to look really,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Because where are you going to go for
if you type in sort of like adult learning, and Lord only knows what you would call that in French, because I'm sure it freaks people out,
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Maybe there are event spaces where you have an occasional talk, but that's very different.
It's very different, yeah, because there are many conferences that are
Conferences,
great,
yeah, that's
but
very different.
conferences, you have so many people in the room. You can be like 50 or 100 people, 200 people, I don't know. And so it's not the same like mood that we wanted to have. We wanted to have a class like you have in high school. So let's say like 20 people, 25 people max. So you're not like an anonymous person in the room, you see the teacher sees you see the other people. It's not like sometimes at a conference, you can be just on your phone and
right. He'll see
here
you.
That's not the case. Like,
and if you do that
can't.
and you've paid.
Yes, totally.
I mean, I feel like the other reason this is such a timely idea is for the very reason you were talking about, which was we get so much information on our screens. We can't finish an article. We don't remember things. And this is a way back. And there is a little bit of, it would be quite shameful to be on your phone during a class like this.
That would be disrespectful to the
so it's
teacher.
like, are you on your phone really while you're taking a yoga class, when you're, in an exercise space, right? So it's almost a way to get people back into something a bit more analog.
Yeah, totally. And to be present and to really listen. And we feel like for us off campus, well, like when you take a class at off campus, it's really a time that you take for yourself to have new ideas, to reflect, to meet new people, to take the time to learn interesting things. And so that's really a time for you. So you don't even want to be on your phone, or you just want to be present and to be there.
Yeah. And take notes and go back and realize like, oh, I can still do this. My brain is still capable of processing this.
Yes, you're right.
So you've now, you did 100 classes before, but in this space, you've already been up and running now for, like I said, a month or more.
Yeah.
What is some of the early feedback? What are the class themes that have gotten people the most excited?
So we have, I'd say, two types of classes. We have the classes that are kind of mostly related to the news. So we have like classes about, geopolitics, sociology, or like ecology. Those are like news related topics. Those are, when you come to these classes, you're not here to laugh. Like yesterday night, we had a class on geopolitics and about, the who makes the weapons and this kind of the weaponization of the world and this kind of stuff. And it's not like a funny topic. You don't come and you're like, I'm gonna have a blast,
a light time. Yeah. Well, and next week you have Hannah Arendt. A whole discussion
like
about her.
That's not like super funny, but still, it's the kind of class you come to really take the time to think, to have new perspectives, to sort of, take a step, un pas de côté, I don't know how you would say that, from the news and to have, a bit more context and stuff. So we have this kind of classes and people really love it. Geopolitics, they work really well, for example. We had the class on inequalities, sociology. It was full. People really like this type of class. And we have the other topics, which are more about, they're more maybe about humanities or like cultural stuff. So we have the art history classes, we have the literature classes, we have the psychology classes, and people really like those as well.
Yeah.
The psychology, it's always full. People want to know about themselves. Art history as well. We did actually tonight is the second time we're doing the class about David Hockney. Because there's the exhibition at Fondation Vuitton, so people are really excited about it. So and it's great because people, I think most people will go see the exhibition after the class. But they're like, okay, I want to know more before going to the exhibition. I want to learn, I want to know stuff, and then I can go to the exhibition knowing more and be able to experience in another way. Because we were talking about it yesterday with the team, and we want to do classes on opera because you see, I feel like we have a great opera in Paris. We have two, they are great, but it can be a bit intimidating to go because you're like, I don't know this opera. I don't know what it's about. I will not understand because it's in Italian or whatever. And we want to do classes about that because once you take a class and someone passionate about the topic, shares knowledge about it with you, then you can appreciate much more the topic and all the topic. You see what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And so I feel like some people come to our classes also to then be able to on their own go further and go deeper. But there is the role of, for us, a teacher or a class is to be, the bridge between the, let's say, culture or like the big things that you feel like you don't understand or that you can't understand, but they are the bridge and they really like share their passion with you. And so then you can be able to, dig deeper. And the class about Hannah Arendt, it's the same. It's like you could be interested in reading philosophy and you could feel like, oh yeah, that would be Hannah Arendt. Like, you know the name, but you don't really know what she's saying or whatever. But it can be super intimidating. Like, where do you start? Like, you go to a bookstore and which book do you pick about Hannah Arendt?
Well, sure.
It's super hard. But once you've come to the class, and the professor, Gilles, is going to tell you about Hannah Arendt, about what she thinks. And it's just an introduction. Of course, it's an hour and a half, so you're not going to learn everything. But you're going to learn just enough for you then to maybe open a book about Hannah Arendt. Or maybe next time you come across her name in an article, you know a little bit more. So you see, to me, that's really how I see the teachers and why you would come to an off-campus class.
And it's as you say, it's a bridge, but also a way to begin.
Yes.
For
totally.
some people, it's about getting their feet wet and then going from there.
Exactly. And the cinema classes also, they work really well. People love it.
I think after my class, there was a cinema-related class, and there were a lot of people waiting.
Yeah, it was full. Yeah.
So are most people then, even in the French classes, are they French or is it a mix of foreign French speakers? Can you tell?
That's a good question. I would say that most people are French.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe there are some English-speaking people that come and
well, I'm going to come to the French classes because I
that's
can,
a way of practicing my French. Could be, but yeah, for now, most people are French. But that's why we tested the English taught class. Because
and so how do you feel? Do you feel like that could be a regular thing or semi-regular?
Yeah. We would love to do that.
Because I find it fascinating to consider or to take into account how international this city is. But also, you don't want to fall into that trap of being just a place for non-French speakers because there are plenty of those, as we know. And then you have the people who come just for the coffee and the atmosphere. That's totally what we're totally okay.
Yeah, we're totally okay with it. And we love it actually when people, they just enter because they're like, yeah, I'm just going to have, a latte or a matcha or whatever. And I'm just going to browse through the bookstore. And then they're like, oh, what is this space? Because the classroom, so people can't see it right now, but the classroom is within, there is a glass door. So you can see the cafe from the classroom. And when you're in the cafe, you see the classroom. So people are like, oh, what is this room? What is happening there? And then we tell us about the concept and they're like, oh, that's great. I'm going to look on the website, the next classes and stuff. So I really love when people just come for a coffee. And some of them, maybe they will never come to a class, but that's totally fine. I mean, the coffee shop is something on its own, the bookstore as well. And then there is the classroom. But for us, it's, we wouldn't have one without the other. It's really the mix of it that is the soul of campus. It's having the three of them.
So I have to ask, because I know how hard it is to find incredible spaces, retail, restaurant, whatever. How did you end up landing on this? Were you looking for the 11th arrondissement or were you open to?
So as I said, when we tested the class, it was at Bonjour Jacob, the one which is near République, so in the 11th arrondissement. And all the people that came to the class, they were like, this is the greatest spot because it's super easy to come to République.
Ah, yes.
Whether you're with the metro, bus, or, there are some people, they actually live in the suburbs and they can take the RER or the train, even, Gare de Lyon, it's not far, Gare du Nord is not too far. So we were like, okay, we're going to look around République. We want the main metro to be République. So we were really looking in this area. At the beginning, we were like, yeah, why not the 9th? But then really after doing the Bourg Jacob class, we were like, okay, 11 and really near République. So that was, for us, it was harder to find a space because it was really, within a small area. So we visited a lot of stuff, and after some time, we were a bit like desperate with Alice. We would be on board for spaces, and we would show it to our architect, and she was like, "There is no way you are taking this space. There are so much construction to do and stuff." And we were like, "Are you sure? I think it could be," because we were so tired of looking for space and not finding one. But thankfully, we found this spot. And so this spot, the owner of this space is La Mairie de Paris. It's Paris. Paris is the owner of the building. And so they have a specific website on which they put, the offers for the spaces. So we were always looking at it. And when we saw the offer, we were like, this is smaller than what we are looking for. But now, we were crazy. We thought we needed a bigger space, but thank God we didn't take a bigger space.
Because this already feels
very
big.
It's already very big, and it's hard enough to operate such a big space. So anyway, and when we visited the space, when some people tell you when it's the one, it, and we were like, yeah, right. But really, when we entered the space, we were like, that's here. I mean, we really liked. So it was in very bad shape.
Oh, I remember. And it was closed for years.
Yeah. It was closed for years. But I don't know, we felt something. We were like, yeah, there are already, we could see it. We could see, okay, here we're going to do the coffee shop, and there we're going to have the bookstore, and then we're going to have the classroom. But we had a lot of work to do and to make it feel warm. And I'm super happy that you said that the first thing we feel when we enter the space is the warmth, because that was the first word we've put on paper. Like, what do we want in terms of decoration and feeling? We were like, we wanted to feel warm.
And there's light too, because you have these huge windows. So not only do you have that, but you have a warmth that is great in the winter, but also just welcoming generally.
Yeah, definitely. And when we said that the space is super important and how it is, because we were like, with Alice, we were like, okay, if we want people to be motivated enough during a winter day after a long day at work to come and take a geopolitics class, it needs to be a nice space, because 100%. Otherwise you just want to go home and watch Netflix, and just have sushis. So we were like, it needs to be a space that you will be happy to go to, and that you will feel like it's warm and cozy, and you want to spend the night there talking with other people and having a glass of wine or hot chocolate or whatever. So that's what we had in mind. So that was why the warmth was really important for us.
So if you were to take one class of your own at your own space on one theme, what would you choose personally?
That's a very good question.
Maybe it's a class that doesn't exist yet.
I must say that I really like the geopolitics classes.
It's very of the moment.
It is, right?
We need to understand.
We need to.
This moment, absolutely.
And I really love literature and cinema and all those stuff. I really love them, but I'm kind of I'm a bit of a nerd. Yeah, kind of a news junkie, right?
Yeah.
So I want to understand things. Like anything about politics and geopolitics, I really enjoy.
Well, it's funny because Macron did a marathon interview on TF1 last night.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if it weren't so long, because it went on just like forever, it could have been something that you could arrange like a one-off, for certain things, air it here and then discuss it,
Totally.
But you would have to have kept your doors open until probably after midnight, which is a different scenario.
You're right.
Okay, last question. When you're not here, if you wanted to go for some sort of cultural outing in Paris, where are you most inclined to go?
Okay, so the first thing that came to my mind is a bookstore. I just love going to bookstores and just wander and read the covers, and I just love it. I'm the kind of people who buy books and I don't read them for like 2 years and they're on my nightstand, but just looking at them, I like it.
Is there one that you like in particular that's maybe somewhere very far from here? So it's...
Well, I guess it's a bit cliche, but I love Shakespeare and Co, of course. And I really like Galignani as well.
I knew, yeah, it's one of my favorites.
I mean, our office used to be near there. So sometimes, during, the lunch break, I would just go there and, just go through the rayon and just see what's there.
And take it all in.
Yeah, I really like...
Galignani is very much a dreamy kind of bookstore.
Yeah, it is.
And has the French and the English.
Yes.
Which is perhaps more similar to what you're
definitely
going to do here.
Yeah, definitely. And another space that I really love is a cinema. Is the MK2 Bibliothèque.
Yes.
It's
massive.
I love going there. I love the feeling you have when you are on this esplanade. You're above like the sea level, and you have a great view, and there are those massive like buildings that are like open books. I love this place, and it's really funny because there are always groups of people who are dancing
in front of the cinema.
Yes. Young people, they come here because they have many space. You see on the esplanade, it's super, like there's this big space. In Paris, you don't have many,
massive spaces,
right? And so there are many young people who are doing, TikTok dances and stuff. So it's I don't know, I really love it. And then I love going to the movies. So, I love going to...
Okay, so geopolitics and film.
Yes.
All right.
That's a good
combo. I'll watch out for the courses coming up that clearly stem from that interest. Siham, what a beautiful space you and Alice have created. And I hope that those who are listening realize that this is also for non-French speakers. They just have to look at the schedule and see what's coming up in English if that's all they can manage initially. Or just come for a coffee and look at the books and, tell your friends.
Yes, please come. You're very welcome. And if you have ideas or topics that you'd be interested in, feel free to write us and give us ideas.
That's opening Pandora's box, but it's a good idea. It's a good idea.
We're always interested in knowing what people want,
Well, now I'm going to think about that.
Yes,
I'm going to have a think and get back to you. Siham, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your questions.
That's the show for today. If you're listening on Spotify, be sure to check out the poll related to this episode by scrolling down in your app. There are more exciting conversations to come this season, so I hope you'll subscribe or share the show with a friend if you've been enjoying what you've heard so far. As always, you can find more from me at lindsaytrimuta.com and at the New Paris Dispatch on Substack. À très bientôt.